turning. Yeah, here we go with the intro. And this should show up on Facebook and will in a couple of seconds. And it is there. So here we go. So we're going to change this to public. All right, let's see here. Edit privacy. Let's go. We're going to go full public. Here we go. All right, it is on. It is going. So I'm going to throw in this intro, and then we're going to come right back. Okay. I'm going to present this screen.
We're ready.
Share screen. This should be fun. Let's see if this works the right way. So here we go. And I think we can do it. I think we can get this done. So here we go. I'm going to cue the music. And this is like the third time I'm using this. So, and here we go. Oops. Yeah, there we go. Welcome to the Kevin White Show. I have half a voice this week. So I have asthma problems and getting over them. I'm getting a little better than yesterday. I can barely talk yesterday. Welcome to the program. I've been here for what? How many weeks has it been? I don't even remember. Anyway, welcome to Kevin White. Has it been 2 months? I think you're right. So all this came from my asthma diagnosis from the VA, and I've been struggling to get stuff together there. And if I talk a little too long, you won't be able to. I'll just be really hoarse. I'll sound like RFK
Well,
Jr.
we brought 2 voices to help you out today, Kevin.
Okay, I can't hear you guys too well. Let's see. Okay, try that again. Test.
We brought 2 voices today, Kevin, to help you out.
Much better. Okay, great. So what we're going to talk about, hey, Doobie Walden says hi, or he's here, he gives a thumbs up. Thank you, Doobie. You and I need to go to the White House, Doobie. We have opportunities. So tell us what you're talking about tonight, and Darren, and what you're going to discuss.
I'm Darren 1, and this is Darren 2. And we're going to talk about the election, and we wanted to just kind of look at some of the stats.
Sure.
It was fascinating to look at how things shook out, how things were predicted, how things turned out.
Sounds great. I can't wait to hear that.
All right. So I didn't really prep Darren Paul, DP2 for anything specific. There's a lot of frustration out there on all the predictions and how close the race was, how close it was going to be, and it really came across as a shocker to many, and some were very upset about it. Matter of fact, one of the late night individuals, won't say any names right now, but one individual was so upset that it was so poorly predicted that he went on a tirade with cursing and a rant against all those that were predicting this to be a close race, and it ended up not being nearly as close as what was predicted. So I'd like to look into some of the predictions that I heard about, some that Darren Paul heard about, and just kind of to look into that a little bit and see what was some of the initial response on that, besides just a few tirades, that it really wasn't predicted well. There was one individual that I wanted to mention, and and I forgot to write his name down, but it's he's a history professor. He's like in his 70s now, and he's been accurate in the last 10 presidential elections, and he had a formula of 13 things that he went through. And I'm not going to go over all the individual things. I wish I could have prepared a little bit better, so I had that list in front of me. But the concept was, if there was no political unrest, if there were no wars, if there was there was a list of 13 things he uses, and it's been very useful in his prediction to say, oh, this is going to win. Well, he used those predictions this time, and again, and he was wrong. So he went from 90% correct, 90+% to 88% after this election, and he spoke about it a little bit, and he said not going to change the formula, but there's some things I don't think he quite captured. And one of the things he didn't capture was the unrest. Darren, do you remember what the percentages were on people coming out, and how many were just dissatisfied with the economy?
Well, I know it said 70% of the country thought 70% of the country thought we were going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, and that's basically the number that I heard from different perspectives as I looked at the news, was that as the pollsters were polling the voters as they left, that was basically the number that said that it's the economy, and that was strangely the response. Not strangely, but I can understand that. I've seen the grocery bill when I go to the groceries, and I'm buying less and paying more, and those are the things that people are dealing with. And I think the perspective of one of the things that was said preliminary to the voting day was that the Harris said that she wouldn't have changed anything that they did,
Right.
that Biden did during the term, and that's understandable. The vice president would stand by what they did, and I respect that. But the reality was that it had a severe impact on the economy, and even though things have been on the improvement, people are still fighting challenges. And I think when it came down to it on Tuesday night, people were voting their pocketbook. And I don't know that when the analysts were doing their prediction, I think they were looking at other factors, like in his last name, it's Littleton or Littleman or something like that. And his predictions are usually pretty good because he follows a certain 13 keys to the election. So I was interested in seeing some of the numbers whereas what people were ignoring some of that aspect, I think, in their prediction, and that was some of the key elements was that the economy somewhat, although on the mend, people were still struggling with the inflation impact and with jobs opportunities. Those kind of things were some of the things that I've heard. Darren, what was some of the other factors that changed?
Hey, before we get started, let's just preface this with, we're not endorsing any candidates. We're just talking about the mechanics of the election. So that sounds good. So what do you have?
Yeah.
D2?
Yeah, we're definitely we're just reporting some stats that we learned.
Sure. We can't wait.
Well, one thing that I saw was they miscalculated Trump winning by 3 points in like 1,000 counties, whereas Harris only overperformed in about 58 counties, which does show the dissatisfaction that people had in the economy.
Right?
Yes. Let's see.
And the Democrats lost a lot of the Hispanic vote, especially in Texas. In the southern part, toward the border, a county that had voted blue since 1896 was red this time around.
Wow.
And, and seeing how things impacted the border was definitely some of those key factors that I think people were looking at.
Yeah, it's because they fear danger and their house will be gone and people will move. There's a lot of things there. So I totally understand. And I know Chicago and people in New York said they vowed to vote. In Aurora, Colorado, we're going to vote for them being gone. They don't want. They're done with that. So go ahead.
Yeah, it was there was things that were where the President-elect Trump had gained an interesting change from the 2020 election in comparison was President Biden had pulled in many of the young people into voting for him, and this had switched during this election, and I think that was unexpected. I know that looking at some of the things that were done, there was definitely a clear effort on the campaign for President-elect Trump to really reach out to them. I heard he even went to a WWE wrestling event and went to a shoe sales event. Oh yeah, I guess he went over to McDonald's and worked for a day.
Yes, right.
He went on all kinds of podcasts.
Yeah, he did a lot of podcasts to try to generate that younger generation interest, and I believe that worked for his campaign. And I guess my I think that the concern for a lot of people is why was the prediction so far off, and it wasn't just by a little bit, and I think there was an element that is just hard. I can't predict the future. Okay, so I can't be very upset with those that were working towards predictions. Many ran 40 or 80,000 different types of data using all kinds of data sources to try to help predict it, and even all of that and artificial intelligence that was brought in and different things couldn't foresee some of these things where you it's hard to test the water, and I think there's another thing that's happened in our country, Kevin, that's made it more difficult to be honest about who you're voting for, because some people, if they said that they were voting for Harris, it would have been an anathema to their family or their friends, or someone else who said they were going to vote for Trump. They were in the same situation where it was like a matter of fact, I spoke to someone from Chicago that had planned to vote for Trump, and they said, I can't put I can't put that out because it will be social suicide, and I
Right.
have no way to, I would be away from my house for a few weeks. I have no way to protect it, and I can remember some during the election where Biden was had someone for Biden had signs out, and their place was it was not, there
Yeah.
wasn't egged, or they didn't do anything serious, but they kind of tried to knock down the signs and ruin the signs, and I disagree with that. I think we cannot be a country that hates our opponent. It's really the wrong basis for how we move forward. I know that since the beginning of our elections, that there has been mudslinging forever. That will never end, okay? But it should be civil. It should be we each have the right to vote and stand for who we believe in, whether that be Trump or Harris or a Green Party, whoever. It should be free, free for speech, free for those that vote different than you, and and enable them to say their word, to say what they believe. And I
Right.
think
I agree.
we're in a strange predicament where I know people that for either side that they won't put signs out because they're afraid someone will destroy their property, and that's
Right.
just wrong. We should
Exactly.
be able to have a speak for who we want to vote for, or I want, or you want, or neighbors, whatever candidate they want. We should still have the freedom of speech. Isn't that right, Darren Paul?
Yes.
So have you seen any other, I guess, surprising indicators as a result of some of what was predicted and what happened?
Um, I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, putting you on the spot.
Hey,
So
I can answer that. I knew it wasn't close because the crowd sizes, the enthusiasm, the engagement, they were different. And the record was already there for former President Trump. The record, he had a proven record, he had specific plans. And then I knew that the migrant thing was a huge deal, affecting a lot of people in this country. So I figured there's no way.
A record speaks for itself. What you've done in the past,
Right.
and the way I describe this in my life is, your walks and your talks, but your walk talks much louder than your talks.
Yes.
And if you
Right.
follow that, Kevin, is what you say doesn't mean as much as what you've done.
Yes.
And I think that was an element that was, I want to say, by the majority of those that predicting, I believe they just ignored it. I mean, I was looking at something that Katie Couric had looked at and interviewed the Kamala Harris, and I was surprised to hear, Katie Couric said she didn't seem genuine, and that was a surprise to me. That
Yeah. Right.
that was the result of an interview, and that's part of the challenge in being able to communicate your platform. And it can't be we're all about joy and happiness, because the voting is not based upon our emotion,
Right.
in the sense of what most people will vote on. And I think there was some things that as a result of COVID in the 2020 election that had an impact on how people responded, because many people believe that at the time President Trump at the time did not respond properly, and that's debatable. You can debate that all day too.
Right.
But the challenge is, how are people feeling at the moment of the election, no matter, and I don't want to ignore the world scene either, because there was a couple things that are on the world scene that were very disturbing.
That's
The war in Ukraine is very
yes.
disturbing, and what's happened in Israel.
Right.
That is just there were some atrocities that happened on October 7th, 2023. We're just past a year of that, and those are the things that are in the back of our minds. As we need strong leadership for sure, and I think that there is elements and ways that either candidate can manage those things, but they would probably manage them differently. So
Right.
that's one of the things we will not know, based upon the results. But I think that was another element that when I go back to, I'm going to call him Littleton. That's the wrong name. But when Mr. Littleton did his 13, he did not consider. It seemed like he did not consider those events, that although they're not, it was not something happened to our country. There's something severely impacting several people, many people in our own nation and their heritage, and that became I think that was one of those. I would say hidden from those that were determining the prediction, and it's hard to know who are they asking. I would be interested to see where they were
Yeah.
they going to places that had a sparse, just one, were they in places that would be more leaning one towards or another? Were the people that they were asking being honest? That's my other question.
Right.
Because I think
Or
that
were
some
they?
people
Yeah.
again were like, yeah, I'm not sure who I'm voting for, and being undecided, although they've already decided, because again, they were afraid of backlash if someone said, hey, you can't vote for her, or you can't go vote for him, and that there was those kind of things have sprung up in our nation, in our communities, to that I would disagree with. The ability for someone to speak their, they should be able to speak for the candidate and be honest about it and not be afraid. I think that was part of the element that may have been the hidden, secret sauce, strange word, but the secret behind the predictions being so wrong. And that's one thing that they'll have to look at. It's not my job to predict the elections, but by any stretch of the imagination. But it certainly was interesting to see how the results turned out. Was the Kevin or Darren? Would you consider? What were the differences in that were impacts between 2020 and 2024? Can you think of some?
Well, I know COVID made a huge difference in 2020 with most of the Democrats doing early and mail-in voting instead of in person because they were afraid of COVID. And this time, there was no pandemic, and so the Democrats mainly still did a lot of early mail-in voting, but then early in-person voting is predominantly Republican, and a lot. I think
Again, these are just facts.
yeah, and what affected Pennsylvania a lot was the GOP was able to get people out that never voted before, like the Amish. There were 50,000 Amish in Bucks County that voted.
That never voted before.
That never voted before.
Wow.
That's an interesting. That's an interesting fact. I've never
Yeah.
realized the Amish didn't vote. Is that something that's typically a part of, because it's, what they consider what we do is the English? Is that something that their culture frowns upon in voting?
No, Darren too. I saw a special earlier this year, and they went to the Amish community, and they said they were going to vote because they didn't like the direction it was going. They went to Pennsylvania and interviewed a bunch of Amish people, and they were motivated to vote this year.
It's fascinating. I never heard that about the Amish before.
That's
very
awesome.
interesting.
No, it's awesome. They should vote. They're Americans.
So in the light of how things have turned out, I think a lot of people, including myself, was surprised at the results. I was expecting everything to be closer. I think there were some numbers that were surprising even in the cities, whereas the typically in previous elections. There was, the Republican, whoever it would be, would typically be double digits behind the other candidate. And this time that had been narrowed, even in the major cities. So that there was something that was again, I believe, was the economy, some of the concerns about the security in different aspects, but it's more than one thing, and everybody votes their conscience, and everybody has a reason for their concern, and I think the exit poll showed really what the preliminary predictions missed in the economy for sure. But yeah, how do you predict it? I don't have a formula for it, Kevin. I don't think Darren has a formula for it. I think that history professor at American University, I'm going to call him Mr. Littleton. He has a good formula. He's been right many times,
Right.
but I don't know that it was as clear as he thought it was, and I think that's when you're, I don't know if they're, when you're looking at that, I would guess, Kevin, that there is a lot of prejudice, that, and not in the sense of, if you have the opportunity to provide prediction, and something you do, you may be what's the right term? Not I'm just going to say, not honest to yourself, and to see the some of that some of those things that were elements that was difficult to see. I think after one of the things that was also a surprising element was the two assassination attempts that
Right.
were
Yes.
were
Right. Yep. Yeah, that's I know that. I knew that was kind of, there's another one today or yesterday. The CIA
Yeah,
is
the FBI found one
FBI.
that the Iranians were planning.
Yeah, right. But I think I think they're gonna go after him again. And then they want to put him in jail later this month, or was it next month? Trump. So the whole thing is the whole thing is crazy.
Well, the going to that we need to be able to trust our system, and sometimes it seems difficult for people to understand the electoral college. It's a difficult thing, but it's something that I believe the founding fathers decided to use as a protection level against people being bought out, or things happening that would, you know, create a false result. And I think that the electoral college drives, it establishes those that are assigned to whatever, whether it's based upon their, and I don't know all the details of the electoral college, but it was something that our founding fathers thought would be a protective measure. But is that something you understand, Kevin, as a protective measure for our elections?
I don't know. There's so many there's so many layers in our government. They're like people think, and I don't know if it's true or not, that the protective measures are trying to get rid of certain people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you just don't know. You never know. I mean, there's too many holes. And I've dealt with Secret Service people in my career, and they are dedicated. It doesn't seem to be that way now, or at least the times we saw. But I have a good stat for you. I heard it yesterday. 60 million people voted in 16, 81 million voted in 2020, and 60 some million voted this time. So if you do the math, there's more votes than there should have been.
Interesting. Yeah, I'd heard about that some of the reports on that.
And this year, people got arrested. It's amazing. People are arrested for messing with the ballots. So they went to jail. So that's a big difference. There's deterrence now that there weren't before. With 20 million illegal aliens here now, so it's amazing that it didn't go the other way, or that it was kind of fair. Amazing. So a lot of factors there.
Yeah, and it was undetermined how that would impact this election. In the sense, would those that are not that are illegally here be allowed to vote in a country that they are not officially a resident? So that creates a different factor of what what impacts our nation and in the decisions that are being made at the level for our national and state legislatures and Congress, and
Right.
even those things that are impacted by decisions that are made at the executive level. So we have a three branches of
Yeah.
that is intended to have that balance of power between legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. And we've definitely seen some of the challenges in those that turn, the judicial branch into the legislation. That's where we're starting to get turned around a little bit in the elements of how things should be managed. But it's been a lot of upheaval in recent years in
Right.
in how things are managed for us socially as well, in social decisions that impact everyone. And I think that was one of the things that was, and I understand people have decisions that they need to make as to personal decisions, gender decisions that they may want to make, and we
Right.
are in a free country. If they want to do that, to enable that. But I think was some things that were going on in the previous administration that were undermining the home and the parents. And I think some of that concern was a part of what was generated in some of those that were. But when people were asked on social questions, the response was less than 30% or around 30% were concerned about social decisions that were being made. And they're, again, going back to, the economy and security of our nation were
Yeah.
some of the concerns that people were.
That was the whole impetus for this election. Those two things were that was everything. That was the most important thing. And then people were actually probably thinking they're going to get drafted and go to war. And the track we were on. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and I really didn't follow any of those discussions and leading up to the election. I had heard a little bit about that, but I really hadn't read into that at all. So it's probably poor research on my part. Darren, Paul, did you hear anything on concerns on that?
I mean, I think a lot of people were worried about like their kids being affected by stuff that should be for only adults. And I did hear a little bit of that, but it was mainly the economy. But you basically saw a shift to the right in every state except for Utah, Washington, and Colorado. So that was an interesting thing to see.
Yeah.
And it was like a lot of states are like big shift. Like New York shifted from like 25 to 11 points.
Between 2020 and 20.
Yeah, Harris only won New Jersey, Minnesota, and New Mexico by 5 or 6
Wow.
percentage points.
Wow.
So
Okay.
there was definitely an element of those that were had changed their minds between 2020 and 2024, even 2016 to 2020. Was an interesting switch, and the same happened here, and this was an interesting transition. And I think our country has a there's a if I can call it a state of mind that is not always out in the open for the predictors to see. And I think that that's where if for those that were missed that missed the prediction, I think they're looking at different elements that maybe are important to them, or maybe key points that they think are, this has been, and the history professor was like, yeah, I've used this based upon the past elections out to the 1800s, right? So you use some predictable measures, what was going on in our nation, to use those as the 13 key factors. And 13 is a good number. There's 13 stripes in our flag, and 13 is sometimes seen as as an unlucky number. But we started off with 13 original colonies, and that makes sense if you're a history professor to use the number 13. But definitely, is one of those things where we have the other thing that I'm concerned about is that in the, and this is just a general statement, I don't see in the aspects of how the media responds to those that they disagree with.
Yeah.
If you look at the past 4 years, it's been an absolute witch hunt in some respects, and that's what is the answer to that? And I really think our country has moved off the concept of what it means to love one another.
Right.
Despite
I
our
agree.
differences.
Totally.
We
Yes.
definitely need to get back to some of that. Hey, whatever, whoever you vote for, we still love one another, we care for one another, look out for one another, and I think that those are things that I guess in the sense of looking at some of those things that have gone on, it was disconcerting to me, just in the sense of what was, I don't know how to describe it, Kevin, but it just seemed like it was a witch hunt, and that was just my opinion. But
Yeah. I
if
think
someone does something wrong, we all need to be accountable for what we do. And I don't know that was equally applied in the past 4 years.
I totally agree with you. I
And I'll
agree.
leave it at that. I'll leave it
Yeah.
at that.
Yeah. I totally agree with you there. Yeah. So would you both say that these last two elections, three elections have divided this country more?
I don't know if the elections have divided us as much as the agendas have divided
Yeah.
us. Because if the agenda is to undermine truth and honesty and integrity
Mhm.
and true law based upon moral principles, if we as a country, and this was long established by our founding fathers, that this country is built upon laws and elements that are based upon a moral country that has an understanding of what's right and what's wrong. And as we continue to blur that element of what's right and what's wrong, yeah, some things might be right for something and some things might be wrong for something in their preferences. But when we get to the point where we are demanding that everybody become one mindset that I'm going to say, you want me to become a certain mindset that I disagree with, I'm not going to change my mind on what I've grown up with, what I've learned, what I believe to be right and to be true. And if you're going to tell me that because I believe that I'm a fascist because I believe in God's word and I believe in those kind of things, you're just all you're doing is calling me a name. You're not changing my mind. And
Right.
it's really become, that was one of the things that has become disconcerting over the last three elections is the agenda. What is the agenda of those that are in office, and how did things turn out? In the sense
Right.
of what was good for the people or what was good for the party, and
Exactly.
that became very very apparent over the past different the past three administrations, even further back. It
Right.
really, we need to be careful that we don't turn the executive branch into the legislative branch or the judicial branch into the legislative branch. We need to make laws that are right and true and live by them in with integrity. And when we work to maintain that integrity in what we do and serve others before we serve ourselves, and
That's
to
right.
have that excellence. And those things have become they shouldn't be shiny words we use when we speak to a bunch of new employees. They should be
Right.
elements that we talk about and live by, whether we are working in the military, or working at McDonald's, or we're working as a legislative in our countries as a politician, and that has been extremely disconcerting in the what would I would declare as a lack of integrity in where we've moved from a a legislative, those that are elected to those legislative positions have made it into a full-time position with free pay increases
Right.
that they assign to themselves, and we the people
Yes.
don't get any decision in that. So
Right.
they're making their buku bucks, and but then they're forgetting that the homeless person that needs that extra support, and that veteran that needs that extra support, and those that have gone through hard times that need that extra support. We definitely have come off that moral balance that our country was founded upon. Not that we're never going to be perfect. We're imperfect people, all of us,
Well,
and
yeah.
I'll be the first to admit, not being perfect. But that's the goal is to do right, and to have integrity, and to do things with excellence,
Did
and
you
serve
know
others.
that you just mentioned two of the Air Force core values?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, I tried to mention all three of them.
Integrity first. Yeah.
So
Serves for self. Yeah.
uh,
That's great. I like
integrity, service before
for self.
self, and then excellence in what we
Excellence.
do.
How we do.
ISE,
Yeah.
ISE.
I see, when they drill that into our heads. Everybody knows that in the Air Force.
That's
Uh,
right.
and it's all about, because, you got important jobs. Same thing with the elections and the election workers and everybody. They've got a very important job. And if you
Yeah.
don't have integrity, then it's not going to work. It's not going to be fair. So we agree with your synopsis. But I can tell that you're a preacher.
Amen.
Yeah, yeah. That's all good stuff. It's great. Great stuff. That's they're teaching that to the civilians. I know my daughter, they taught that to my daughter too. So
Yeah.
that's a good thing. And it's a 3-day weekend. Yes.
Yes, and take the time to thank our veterans out there that are
Yeah.
listening in. Thank you for your service. My call to duty was to the Lord's Army.
Yeah.
I like to describe it as where I was in the
Oh yeah.
ministry. But my current calling, alongside being called to the ministry, is to help our warfighters
That's right. That's
best I
right.
can in my position, and definitely enjoy that as my opportunity to serve, and to help those that are serving our nation's military.
And you're very talented at that too. I mean, you're getting everything, got a lot of stuff done. You get a lot of stuff done. You have a lot of great experience in the past to bring to your program. So I think that's where you make the money there. That's where the program benefits. So yeah, thank you for your service too, because you're doing a lot.
Thank you. I love what I'm doing. I'm very thankful. I definitely love being in the ministry at full time. I
Yeah.
definitely love that. But I've really come to love what I'm doing for our warfighters, and I've had some really really amazing opportunities to look out for them, and I'll
Yeah.
continue to do that.
And yeah, that's a big thing because the people on the ground usually don't know that your program and your office exists. So the hidden, this is the weirdest thing. We didn't know anything about the SPO or the home offices in my career. I heard about it. Nobody knew what it was. They had no idea. That's
Right?
the Air Force. Unless you go there on assignment, you're not going to know. But it is fascinating.
Yes. Yes, and definitely eye-opening experience with many of the things that are SPO challenges
Yeah,
in order to bring that continuity of of meeting the needs for our weapon systems and uh, our military in our warfighting.
absolutely. Excuse me. Yeah, yeah. I'm starting to lose my voice now. So
Yeah, we're approaching 8 o'clock, and we're probably ready to conclude our thoughts today. Darren, did you have any last? You have any
last,
last thoughts that you'd like to share before we go off the air?
Yeah, I do want to point out that sometimes it seems like the media and the social media makes it look like we're all at each other's throats, but
yeah,
in general, Americans are really not. We're all just normal people living our lives.
I agree
right,
with that.
right.
I think there are those out there that are highlighted as the the 1 or 2% that are extreme and rude and mean and unkind, uncouth. But I think Darren Paul is exactly right that most of us are very generous, very kind. We all, when there's a national emergency, we all
Yeah,
reach into our pocketbook and help out.
you're right.
I had some friends that are very well off, that were just a part of they had they went their neighborhood and their area went through Hurricane Helene. Well,
Yeah,
it didn't matter that they had whatever degrees and whatever things, whatever amount of money they made. They were out cutting up trees and helping people out in
yeah,
need. It didn't matter what they made in their job. They went out to help people because people needed help, and that's the generous um, America that I know, is that when people are hurting, we're always willing to help one another, and that's the foundation of what we do as a nation, is we look out for each other, and when something like happens, you don't ask, well, are you a Democrat or are you a Republican? Well, I can't
no,
help you. That's not
no,
how we approach it, right, Kevin? We approach
right.
it that you are American. We love you. We're going to help you.
Yeah, they don't do that in other countries. Trust me.
No, no, no,
Oh my
no.
gosh.
We have an
But
amazing nation that
yes,
God has given to us, and freedom that is unseen throughout history. Very difficult to find the kind of a nation that didn't oppress its people, by its leadership didn't oppress its people, and that's
right.
why we have the elections and the balance of power that we have to protect the people, and so that those that are representing our nation as politicians, they're our representatives, and they're supposed to be out there to help protect us and to look out for us, not to look out for their own pocketbook.
Well, yeah, yeah, and that's a motivation, and that's why people stay in forever. And instead of making the 140,000, they're making 140,000 and a million on the side. So, and then it's legal there. There
And
are
that's
no
part
rules,
time.
huh?
That's a part time job.
Yeah, it's supposed to be 3 days a year, and it's a full time. And then now you make all the rules you want now. And
Yeah.
there not supposed to be any attorneys in Congress or the Senate.
Yes.
So I think that's well.
Challenge we're not going to answer in today's session, Kevin.
I think I like that. That was pretty interesting. It was honest. Thanks, Darren Paul and Darren White Senior. Appreciate it. And you got me back on this program, so I appreciate that too. Thanks for asking me if I'm doing something. So, and I'm
Yeah, I know your voice was a little bit challenged, but you did great.
right.
And,
Thanks.
Paul and I were glad to share some of the stuff we've learned in the recent weeks, recent days.
Oh, no problem. And yeah, you're gonna have your regular show here whenever you're ready.
Yep.
So also, just reminding people, Veterans Day, the 11th, I'm going to have a bunch of veterans on this program.
Great.
I asked them 3 weeks ago, and I'll see how that goes. And yeah, I totally agree. And well, the Air Force is one thing, the Marines are another, but we're all working together.
Yeah.
And get something done. So I appreciate that.
Right.
Anyway, thank you so much.
Together. Because we certainly will fall apart if we do not.
Right. Except for the Navy. Just kidding. We love the Navy.
My brother served in the Navy. God bless
The
him.
Navy's cool. That's the only other service I would have gone in would probably be the Navy. But then I don't like water that much. So
yeah, I have a nephew that's serving in the Navy right now.
that's
So
cool.
Pray for him. Pray for
Oh yeah.
pray for all our servicemen and women for
Yes.
safe protection. Pray for peace. Pray for peace.
That's right. And just a final word. So Putin has already come out and said that he's willing to work a deal with the new president. That's good news.
Who said that?
Putin.
Oh yeah. Good.
That's
Good.
Great. That's what we want to hear.
That's what I was hoping and praying for, Kevin.
Yes.
Definitely want to see peace in our world.
Yes.
And not just in our own country, but across the world.
Absolutely.
We're all better off when the world is at peace. We really are.
Yes, we are. Yep. All right. Well, thank you, too, both Darren 1 and 2, and I appreciate you coming on and explaining things. And like I said, you have the gift of gab. Of course, all ministers do. And Darren, too, you're a genius. I enjoy your book and your work, stuff that you do, and the facts you brought. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
We got a book for you to help us get published here.
Yes. Send it to me. I cannot wait for you to send it to me. I would be happy to do that.
Very good.
Seriously. So
Well,
you
God
are
bless
a
you,
talented man.
Kevin, and God bless America.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
God bless our veterans.
Yes. And their wives, the spouses, go through
Amen.
just as much. So
Right.
all right. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good
We
day.
will see you later. Okay.
Peace out.
Peace out. All right. That's the end of the show. My voice is going away, so I don't know if I can do any more. But we'll see you on the 11th, which is Monday. See you there. I'll have the veterans talk for me. All right. Thank you. God bless America. God bless you all. There you go. We're out.